Okay, so I think we can start, Pak Johan. So please, time is yours, Pak Johan. Thank you.
Thank you. So let me share my screen, probably like the desktop, the second desktop. Um, can you see my screen now, my presentation?
Yes, clearly. Yes.
Just one moment. Okay, so probably, yeah, everyone, thank you for coming to my presentation entitled Effective Computing, the Research Opportunities and Challenges. I started doing research in effective computing back then when I was like doing my PhD in 2016. Probably some of you have never heard like this research area before. So I will try to, explain this topic in lay terms. Hopefully you can, comprehend or understand the general idea about this research topic. So before we talk about um, the affective computing itself, I would like to introduce myself again. Probably some of you have known me from other courses because I noticed like some familiar names in here, but I will try to introduce myself again in case you don't know me. As mentioned by Mr. Hari, my name is Muhammad Johan Alibasa. I completed my PhD at the University of Sydney in 2020. So even if I completed my study overseas, I'm totally aware that my English is far from perfect. Honestly, when I can tell you the story when I was before like I was doing my PhD, I just barely passed my IELTS test in 2016, and I have to took the test like 3 times before I finally passed the border, like uh, the passing grade kind of thing. It was not even like that high, like only 6.5, but because I was not that good speaking in English and especially writing, so it was a little bit challenging for me at that time. Hopefully you can understand what I said, and feel free to ask me questions about the parts that you don't really understand or the parts that are not clear for you. So probably you can keep the question at the end or like in the middle. It's fine for me. So you don't have to wait until the end of the presentation before you can ask me question. But if you want, you can wait until the end of the presentation. And on top of that, I can probably share you that I'm an anxious person. You can probably tell by now. So like, for example, sometimes I stutter a lot during my presentation because like I feel like anxiety every time I speak to public people, like to people. It's, it's not like at the beginning, it is worse, but hopefully by the end of the presentation, it gets better. Okay, so I would like to also talk about other thing about myself. Like I like to play online games, watch movies, animes, and then NBA games. Congrats to Golden State Warrior, by the way. If some of you follow like NBA, and I also love to write codes for my personal project. It's not like for like pet project or anything. It's just for my hobby. And I joined Telkom University last year, and it has been like a really fun journey for me until now, and hopefully it will be the same in the future. So at Telkom University, my research area is more into like software engineering. So ICT computing is not my only research area that I'm working on at the moment. Well, probably, yeah, I don't want to waste your time by only knowing about me. So let's start discussing the topic that I want you to know, which is affective computing. So most of the contents in this presentation are from papers written by my supervisor, my past supervisor, Rafael Calvo. He has a very deep knowledge about this research topic, and he was very kind and patient when he was my supervisor, especially because, my writing was really bad at that moment. And he always pushed me to learn about academic writing in the past. And he was like, he's kind of like my role model as a supervisor, and I'm using his supervisory style when I'm supervising my undergrad student at the moment, and hopefully they will experience the same experience that I had before. So at the beginning, we will explore about what affective computing is, and then it's followed by several affective computing areas that include affect detection, affect generation, and then the application of affective computing. Lastly, the presentation will discuss about the overall challenges that we have when we do research in affective computing. So affective computing is still rather new. Like it was first proposed in 1997 by Rosalind Picard. She is a professor at MIT, and she wrote a book or like kind of like publication where she introduced this concept at first, like affective computing terminology. In short, affective computing is the study and development of systems and devices that can recognize, interpret, process, and simulate human affect. So in this case, affect can be defined as feelings, feelings that we experience as a part of life. This can include like moods, emotions, or mental state like stress, depressed, and so on. Other people might consider affect as the outward expression of a person internal emotion. For example, the expression that you show when you feel something. You might be familiar with the word affection, which tends to be like to like positive emotion, like caring for someone, but this affect cover both negative, neutral, and positive emotion. So it's not like just positive emotion only. In case I'm going too fast, please let me know, because I tend to do so when I'm doing my presentation, because I'm feeling anxious. So I tend to like present my presentation like really, really fast. So in case you notice like it's going too fast, you can put like, I don't know, uh, there is a button, right? Like where you can raise your hand, like, or like give like emoticon kind of thing. Yeah, anyway, so affective computing is like interdisciplinary or like multidisciplinary studies. It means that it combines more than one knowledge discipline. As you can probably tell, it has psychology aspect to it, because you have to learn what emotion or like what mental really is. And of course, you have a computer science aspect to it, where you apply machine learning and AI, especially. For you who don't know like what AI and machine learning are, basically you train a computer or system to be able to, classify or like make decision or like detect something on the data that we provide as an input. And lastly, we have cognitive science. It 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 is like still comparable to psychology. I mean, some literatures it mentioned like cognitive science is still under psychology, but not vice versa. So like cognitive science is under psychology, but not vice versa, not the other way around. And then even though cognitive science is still really broad, it has specific aspect to focus compared to psychology, because psychology is really, really broad, like it's the main body of knowledge. For example, like in cognitive science, you try to understand how our mind works. Like cognitive science also apply like several like multiple disciplines such as philosophy, neuroscience, and then sometimes AI itself, in order to understand how the brain makes decision and performs a task. So it's basically like three components here, but sometimes the other discipline can also be included in this affective computing. So it's not limited into these three, but sometimes in other cases, you can include other area as well to be included in this affective computing. So another illustration here shows the emotion recognition fields of study. So emotion recognition is part of affective computing. So it's kind of like, so you have affective computing on the top, and then in the lower level, you have emotion recognition as part of affective computing. As you can see here, it combines like several knowledge. We need to know sensors, signal processing, psychology, and machine learning. While it doesn't always use sensors, we will use another knowledge. For example, you have to know about natural language processing, or even image processing, depending on the data that you want to process. In summary, you need to know various knowledges, to develop affective computing system or models. So before we talk about the affective computing itself, I would like to tell you a story, a short story, hopefully, about the beginning of affective computing. So one of the first inventors of affective computing is Manfred Clynes. In Wall Street Journal article, he was described as, as a brilliant inventor who invented a machine that measure emotion. So one of his invention called centograph measure like slight changes in the directional pressure applied to immovable button. So you have a button, and then the user have to press it, and then from this slight changes of this pressure, he can detect like some emotion to it. Like, for example, whether the user is feeling joy, sadness, anger, and more. So basically, by just pressing a button, like the way that we press the button can indicate the emotion. And when it first proposed, this is not like approved by other mainstream emotion theories. Like emotion theories believe that emotion cannot just be detected by just pressing a button. And Manfred, like this person, is far from mainstream. I mean, his theory is like kind of like out of the box. And actually, Manfred never claimed like he was the first person to build a machine to measure emotion. But I think Manfred maybe the first one to get laugh of his work, to make like affect computable. He told my supervisor actually when the time he presented these ideas to like scientific communities to measure like emotion. The audience like laugh at him, and it was not the kind of like laughter most speaker crave to elicit. Like, it's not like he's doing a stand-up comedy kind of thing. And he said that he was like literally laughed off the stage, because like many people don't believe him and think that the idea is really ridiculous. And but he wasn't wrong at that moment, like when he presented this idea, because in 1997, like Rosalind Picard told the world that it is possible. And even though there are many challenges that we will discuss at the end, it is a really promising research topic, and many people should consider that, because today we know that biological emotion operate to help human beings to handle complex and unpredictable inputs in real life. Like we need to use emotion to operate to help human beings. And then we know that emotion signal what matters, what you care about, because you want to feel happy every time, right? It is like basically your human needs. You want to feel happy. And then today we know that emotion involved in rational decision. Like when you make a decision, your emotion will affect your decision. Like for example, when you angry, when you feeling negative, it will affect your decision. And it will affect your how you behave in rationally in real life. So you need to properly have like a system where you can understand how you feel at that moment and at the specific moment. But in the past, this wasn't like not a clear on the radar. Like emotion was considered less like irrational, and if you wanted respect, you didn't want to be associated with emotion. Like you don't want to show other people how you feel. Like when you feel sad, you don't want to show that sadness. Like sometimes in Indonesia, especially, there is a stigma where you cannot feel sad. Like when you cry, many people will tell you like you you can cry, like you don't cry, just because you feel sad. There are many people feel worse than you have. I mean, sorry, worse than you do. I mean, this is not a really good thing, and especially it's not really good in like mental health areas. So probably in the past we still have like kind of like stigma, and hopefully in the future we will embrace this feeling. Like emotion is like a positive thing. It is good that you have emotion, not like in the past it was bad like if you express your emotion. So basically, since we know that emotion is important, we want to apply how we can adjust our technology or systems to be based on our emotion or affect. So in the next slide here, as I mentioned, like affective computing is important because it enables to extend the possibilities. Sorry, the possibilities or computing technologies by incorporating emotion. So, for example, just imagine if you have friends that who understand how you feel, they can be more like compassionate or having more sympathy towards what you feel. And probably you can also imagine when you meet your boyfriend, girlfriend, or any significant others, they know what you're feeling. That, for example, they know that you're feeling down, and they help you to cope or feel better. And this will make you feel better. Like you will feel like happier when your significant others understand what you feel. Same goes with system or like technology. If they can understand what you feel and help you with that, then you can build a better technology that support your well-being. So as I mentioned before, it is one of your basic needs where you want to get like good relationship where it has emotion to it. Like if you have a relationship without any emotion, then um, it it might like affect you negatively, so probably try to put emotion in your all like in your like relationship, any relationship, try to put emotion to it. And similarly, as I mentioned, technology that use emotion will kind of have like a human touch to it, like compared to system without detecting the emotion. So in the future, hopefully we can have like technologies or a system that can be aware about our emotion. So yeah, that's why emotion detection has become one of the most important aspect regarding affective computing, because the system has to detect the emotion about the user from the user. Sorry. So next slide here. Um, so before we can detect or like predict the emotion, we have to model the effect itself. Like, I mean, effect itself can consist of several things, as mentioned here. That it can include like they can include like emotions, feelings, moods, attitudes, affective styles, and temperament. So as you can see here, there are many ways to model emotion. I mean, we cannot just say like there are only three levels, like for example, positive, negative, and neutral. Or you can, I mean, there are many ways to do it, and you can make some labels to your emotion. Let's say like sad, anger, or like angry, happy, depressed, and so on. I mean, there are many ways to label your emotion. Like there are many models that try to label your emotion, and there are many versions of it. And there is another question, like is it just one dimension, like for example only from negative, neutral, and positive, or like can you add one more dimension? Let's say you have a level of activation, so it will have like differentiate between upset and depressed, because upset is kind of like high level activation, and then you have depressed where it's lower activation, where you're just feeling down and you don't want to do anything. And then you can also differentiate excited and relaxed. I mean, both of them are still positive. Like excited is more like high level activation where you feel pumped, and relaxed is more like you feeling, I don't know, relax, and it's still positive, but it doesn't have like a high activation level. And you can also try to add another dimension to it again, like by including whether it is related to the past, present, or future. Like, for example, there are some emotion that is related to future, and then there are some emotion that are related to the past. So I mean, there are many ways to model this emotion, and this is one of the tricky part. There are many psychologists that are having like debate about how to model emotion, but as affective computing researchers, we don't have to put our focus on these things, and we just use the things that we have at the moment and try to build something from it. So as I mentioned before, there are many ways to model affect or emotion. For example, emotion as expression. Darwin was the first one to scientifically like explore emotion. You know, Darwin, the one who proposed the evolution theory. He noticed that some facial and body expression of humans were similar to those other animals. So animals can show like emotion as well. Like they have like, you know, facial expression and other uh, behavior that can express emotion. And he concluded that behavior, behavioral correlates with emotional experience, and they were like result of evolutionary processes. And this respect, evolution was probably the first scientific framework to analyze emotion. I mean, I don't want to talk in more detail about this, but basically, um, emotion was part of expression, and they're really connected to each other. Like there are many studies believe that when you try to put smile on your face, like you're forcing smile, you probably will feel happy uh, afterwards, after you put your I mean put smile on your face for really long duration, for example. But I don't really believe that, but there are some studies prove that it can be useful when you feel neutral. But if you feel sad, probably it doesn't work, you know. You can just, you know, when you feel depressed or sad, then you try to force smiling, and then you just magically feel happier. I mean, it doesn't work like that. But probably when you feel neutral, like you just don't feel anything in particular, and then you try to smile when you meet people, you probably will feel happier when you do that. So that's why try to be, you know, polite to each other, like try to put smile when you meet some people. Anyway, so the second one, we have emotion as embodiments. So we have like James James Lang's James Lang theory, uh, which focus on the changes on the physiological reaction on our body. Like for example, the uh, like emotion is kind of like changes in the sympathetic nervous system, like SNS. It is a part of you know, autonomic nervous system. So when you feel something, like let's say that I'm feeling nervous at the moment, it will increase your heart rate, and then from increasing heart rate, usually we will sweat more, you know, like sweating more, because it generates like high temperature of your body, so you will sweat a lot. So basically embodiments here, like it's kind of like um, similar to Darwin, where when you feel something you express it, but in here it's more about like physiological signals to it. Like it's not something you can detect by looking at it, but uh, you can you can detect it if you have some specific you know, tools. For example, you have EEG or like any wearable devices that they can measure your heart rate. So you can still use this theory to detect emotion by looking at physiological signal change. And then we have a cognitive approach to emotion. Basically, people in this area believe that in order to, like, in order for a person to experience an emotion, an object or event must be appraised as directly affecting the person in some way, you know, like based on experience, goals, or opportunity for action. It's kind of like there must be a trigger to have to elicit some emotion. So you have to have, you need to have some events before you can feel like you feel like some emotion. Like it can be like object or events, doesn't have to be like something you can see, like you can touch, but something can be like memories from the past, then it can generate emotion. I'm probably boring you right now, so I will just go ahead and tell you that we also have emotion as social construct, and also from neuroscience. Basically, the social construct means that a social level of analysis is necessary to truly understand the nature of emotion. You cannot just see it from one person. You have to see the social construct, like how this person interacts with each other. And then we have neuroscience. Basically, we have to include like brain imaging, lesion studies, genetics, and so on. Yeah, so I don't want to go into detail in this part because probably it's boring for you. Let's move. So we can summarize active computing into three areas. So the first one is we need to talk about affect detection. So we want to determine the human affect that is currently felt. Like, for example, you want to know that person feeling at the moment. And then the second one, we have affect generation. So how we can show emotion from our technology or system. Basically, when you have a avatar or like a system that can talk to human, you want to show the emotion, so you want to generate affect or like emotion. And lastly, you want to see whether we can apply like or like the application of affective computing, how we can uh, apply the thing that we have before, like the affect detection and the affect generation, and we want to use them to our technologies. So there are many ways to detect affect or emotion. There are many studies to, I mean, try to do this, and they use many approaches, and inputs. I will talk about each of them one by one in the next slides. Um, Please note that there are still many other ways to detect emotion. Like there are many other inputs that can be used to detect emotion, even if they are not included in this list. I'll probably include my PhD research. Yeah, I think I added the slide. Yeah, at the end of after the multimodality, I think, but I forgot to add the input here. It's more about digital activity. I will talk about it later. So first, this is probably the most studied attempt to detect emotion using, facial expression. It is inspired by Darwin theory, where emotions as expression view. So the majority of affect detection research has focused on detecting the basic emotion from the facial expression. Uh, I mean, the data are easily obtained from camera or webcam. As you can see here from the image, you may know that there are some emotion experienced by this person, like these people. For example, you can see disgust, fear, happy, sad, and so on. Uh, you don't have to use like static image. You can even use like video. There are many studies try to detect emotion from video. There are some challenges to it because it's not static, and and it's really hard to pre-process the data, basically, because like video, you have a sequential data. Like if you have a static image, it's just one data. Just basically you want to convert this image into like some representable format that machine can process. But in video you have a sequential of data, so you have to pre-process it in more like deeper or like more complex method using like more complex method. And probably we'll discuss this thing again when we talk about the challenges. But as you may notice, like sometimes you don't show your emotion, right? I mean, um, you can be smiling at the moment, like during this Zoom, you can show that you are smiling, but deep inside, like deep down, you're feeling depressed or feeling stressed about something important to you. Like let's say you have many project deadlines coming up and you feel stressed about them. And sometimes you cannot see the real emotion just by seeing the facial expression, and sometimes you can still detect it, but in some cases you cannot detect it, because um, you can just hide your feelings from your facial expression. And then we have body language and postures. So well, it is easier to put smile on your face. Adjusting your body language might be a little bit harder, even though it's still probably easy to to express it. Like want to hide your feelings, and then you intentionally show different body languages. Um, but anyway, yeah, many other studies attempted to use body language from sensors like Kinect. The Kinect is the sensor that Nintendo Wii use to detect your movement. So if you ever play like Nintendo Wii, it has like specific sensor called Kinect, and then it can detect your movement. And basically, this is, I mean, these studies, they try to use this sensor and then try to detect emotion from the movement or like body languages. And once again, this approach is still related to emotion as expression. As you can see here, there are some postures that correlated highly with specific emotion. For example, you can see happiness when the user like try to jump with putting your hands up kind of thing. And then you have sadness, anger is kind of like you throw something down, but it doesn't always like that, like when you throw something down, it doesn't always mean that you are feeling angry or like you feel anger, and so on. So once again, not many people actually express their emotion through body language. And so we have other like input to detect emotion. So we have so here we have a facial expression, and then body language, and then we have voice. Voice, in the other hand, is much harder to hide your emotion. As you can probably tell from my voice, you can feel anxiety that I'm experiencing right now. And researchers try to capture this input and try to detect emotion from this voice input. Like for example, the changes on your amplitude, or like the frequency, or even um, the pace, or like the velocity, the way you speak. And then they try to use this to detect emotion. And actually, one of the hardest part using voice to detect emotion is that you have to know like deep knowledge about signal processing techniques, because voice is kind of like unstructured data, and you have to translate it into something that system or like a computer can process, or even the machine learning can process the data. So it's the challenge. I think, in my opinion, the most challenging part of using voice to detect emotion is that you have to pre-process data. And sometimes the other researchers just use like a deep neural net, because you can send a raw data. As long as you kind of like translate um, the voice input into something like binary, then it can be processed to the machine learning model, especially the deep neural net. Deep neural net. Yeah. Anyway, so this is another way to detect emotion, and I think this one is it's a little bit promising, because sometimes um, people um, can express their emotion using voice, like the way they talk. It can like tell you how much, or like how they feel sometimes, but not everyone have the same way to express this emotion through voice. And then next one we have um, physiology. So if we refer back to the the emotion model, we have something like psychological things, like um, where you have you know uh, let's say that you feel anxious like me right now. You tend to have a shorter breath, or like even like higher heart rate when you feel stressed, and it is much harder to hide it, if you want to hide your emotion, because it's kind of like, it's from your body, like it's your physiological signals, it's from your uh what I told you before, the autonomous nervous system. So it's not like you generate this heart rate, you cannot just increase your heart rate by telling your brain that you want to increase your heart rate. You have to do something. Like, it can be triggered by emotion, but it can also be triggered by doing some activities. Let's say that you run one lap to your let's say that you run like for few kilometers, you will have like higher heart rate, right? So you have to do something to it before you can increase or like change your physiological signals from your body. um as I mentioned, like this physiological signal can include like heart rate, obviously, like how fast your heart beating right now. And then you can also have let's say that you use like EMG. It can also be uh, detected using muscle reaction. So it's I don't really remember uh, the longer term for EMG. It's basically like trying to see the muscle reaction. And then lastly, when I was doing my PhD in the first year, I was using like skin conductance. It's like how much sweat that you have at a specific moment, because when um, like sweat can conduct electricity, and more sweat will be detected as higher conductivity. So the more sweat that you have a better conductivity. And many researchers believe that some emotion have effect to this specific physical reaction. Like, for example, when you feel anxious or stressed, you have a higher heart rate, and you have a higher skin conductivity level, because you tend to sweat a lot, like more than you usually do. And even if it sounds promising, there are some challenges to it. Probably I can just explain it here as well. Like, it is hard to detect it from this method. First, the devices that can like measure these signals accurately. It's not like these devices is not something like you can wear it without any intrusiveness. Like it, it's kind of like a box, and you can just bring it along with you like every day. And if you use the thing like Fitbit, for example, or like Apple Watch, or like some other wearable devices that has like heart rate monitors, I've tried it before, like during my first year in my PhD, and the accuracy was not that good at that moment. I don't know whether it has better accuracy now, but in 26 2017, I think. Yeah. The accuracy was not that good, so that we can actually detect emotion just by using heart rate sensors. So this is one challenge. And the second one is that many physical activities can affect your physiological signals. Like I said before, let's say that you run for like few kilometers, you will have like higher heart rate, and then you will have higher skin conductance, and this will be noise, noise to your data. When you want to detect emotion, you also need to know the activity that the user was currently doing, is currently doing, for example, so that it's not like okay, so the user has like higher heart rate at the moment, so it's probably because it has like it the user experience like stressful event or kind of thing. But it can be um, triggered by other physical activities, like the normal activities. And the other challenge is that like different people might have like different physical reaction. Like some people tend to sweat more than sweat more than the other people, for example. Like for me, even if I like walk for like few meters, sometimes I sweat, as long as it's very humid. Like if in Australia it's very dry, like even if you probably walk for like 3 kilometers, you probably will not sweat at all, because the humidity is very low, so that it's very hard to sweat. And once again, there is no guarantee that specific physiological reaction only correlate to specific emotion. Like for example, high heart rate doesn't always correlate only to stress. It can correlate to other emotion as well. Oh, wait, I'm I'm probably running out of time at the moment. So the presentation is only 1 hour, right, Mr. Hari?
Yes, Pak Johan. Okay,
I'm
maybe in
still
10 minutes.
currently in place
Okay.
16 out of 42, so I will try to move like faster, or
Okay.
probably I will not discuss in detail for several slides that I have in my presentation. So let's move faster. So we have this EEG, like using brain, and once again, you cannot just use these devices because you cannot just wear like EEG sensor when you do your activities. I mean, it's not applicable in real life scenario. And then you also have text as an input to detect emotion. And this one also uh, is really popular, like many researchers doing like sentiment analysis, like trying to detect whether specific text has specific emotion to it. But once again, I mean you can see, like, for example, good job, I will expect but I will expect a lot more in the future. It's kind of like neutral, because you have like positive thing like good job, but then later you you heard that I will expect uh, you to do a lot more like in the future. It's kind of like weighing it down, so that it comes to neutral, and then you have a brilliant effort, love your work, it's kind of positive. But once again, it doesn't always show the real emotion of the user. And then we have multimodality, where it combines like several inputs, like say that you have a heart rate from physiology signals, and then you have a facial expression, um, and then you also use like speech sensors. So basically you try to combine like several um, input to detect emotion. And this is pretty popular, but once again, the applicability is a bit hard, because you have to combine like several sensor. And sometimes let's say that you have like different models for each sensor. For example, let's say that the physiology sensor tell you that the user feeling stressed, but the facial expression uh, telling you that the user feels happy. Then which emotion should you decide, like whether it's stress, or like which one do you believe the most? Like, it's kind of like another question that you need to answer. And then this is one of my research. Actually, this is my main research focus when I was doing my PhD. So I try to use digital activity as an input to detect emotion. Like for example, the way that you spend your time on social media, or like on email, on Microsoft Word, I use them to detect your emotion. And then I try to detect the sequences. Like for example, after you open Microsoft Word or like email, and then you open um, let's say social media for 10 minutes, and then you open Microsoft Word again for 3 minutes, and then you try to detect this sequences, and then you try to detect the user emotion using it. The accuracy was not perfect, but from my PhD result, it can be concluded that it can be done, like it's possible to detect emotion using digital activity. If you're interested to know more about this approach, you can just check my Google Scholar, and you'll be able to find like several publications related to my PhD research. And then the second aspect to affect affective computing is affect generation. So we have four part here. Like the first one is facial expression for virtual characters. So you have real human faces, say that angry expression like anger, and then you have joy or happy, and then you try to visualize it as virtual characters. When you watch animated CGI, or like if you are playing a game, you can feel like it has like better quality, or like it engage more when the character shows emotion. Like for example, um, when there is a dialogue in the game, and then the facial expression is stays still, like it doesn't change, even though there are some events to it. It should feel like happier for the characters, but it show like neutral face. It doesn't engage more compared to the one that show emotion in the virtual characters. So that this research try to model like facial expression for the virtual characters. So basically, they collect some images related to specific emotion, and then they try to generate a virtual character, or like avatar based on this data. And then the second one, we have an emotional speech synthesis. So it's kind of like trying to make a speech that has emotion. So it's not like basically speech that doesn't have any emotion, but you try to sometimes when you talk to someone, you can feel the emotion of their you know of their um, speech. Like for example, when I explain it like this, you can probably tell that, okay, so this person is feeling anxious, and then you try to be more compassionate probably, or like you don't really care. It's up to you. Once again, when the system can express this emotion into speech, it will engage the user more, like to in the game, or like even in let's say that you are building a system where the user can interact with the system, and then they can talk to the system. Let's say that it is for like mental health support, and then you talk to the system, you tell them about how you feel, you're struggling with your life, you have like several problems at the moment, and then the system can express it using emotion. It will have better engagement. So you will feel that the system uh, understand what you feel, and then you probably tend to use the system more compared to the one that just speak like using Google Translate. Is a natural speech without any emotion to it. And then this the next one is emotion modeling for social robot. Is similar to the other two, like this basically combining the facial expression and the speech into a robot. And then probably the robot can also use some body language. Let's say that when the user feel happy, then I don't know, giving a thumbs up, or I don't know. My research is not this in this area, but once again, it can be useful for the user. And then lastly, about the affect generation, it can be used for like intercultural communication, because there are some cultures where there are some specific way to express your emotion. For example, like there are some facial expression that considered as positive, but in other culture it can be considered as negative. So this can be useful for us to inform, like before we go to specific countries, and then the system can inform us like this is the culture communication that you should do to make sure that you have a better communication with other people in other countries. So yeah, almost, yeah, 3 minutes left. I will try to be quicker then. So then we have the application of active computing. So first, it can be used for like learning technologies. When you want to learn something, when you put emotion to it, you will be more engaged. And then emotion in games, as I mentioned before, when you play games, if the system understand what you feel, and then it will have like specific response to it, you will be more engaged to the game. And even like when the game has a visual representation, or like avatar that can express emotion, you will it has like human touch, because it express emotion, so that you feel that, okay, so I can understand what the character felt at the moment. And then you can also use it in human robot interaction. The live site is called Ivo. It's developed by Sony from 1999 to probably 2006, I think. Like hundreds of units are sold, but it was intended as a long-term component for a friend. Uh, it has like instinct emotional model. Uh, so it will try to detect your emotion and do specific thing when it detects like specific emotion. Let's say that when you feel sad, then it will probably try to jump around like expressing some body language from the robot itself. And then the second one on the right side here we have Paro. Yeah, it is a robot for like elderly. uh it is it is also like commercially available. It is as a companion, it will try to express emotion when it detects like the the elderly when they feel, let's say, sad. It will do something to cheer them up. And then next one we have virtual reality, same thing with the other thing, yada yada yada. And then we have this emotion intervention system that many people believe that if we can detect like basically this is my research focus when I was doing my PhD. Basically we want to try to detect emotion so that when we feel that the user has like a negative emotion like almost every day, it is not healthy, like it's and it can trigger like many serious mental health issues like depression, uh and so on, like many other mental health issues. If you can detect this negative emotion, and then you can make like some intervention. I don't know whether you can call some of their friend to cheer them up, or like I don't know, like giving some uh, some videos to cheer them up or anything, like kind of like intervention when the system feel that the user feel unhappy, then it will do something to it. I will talk about the problem with this approach because it has like some ethical issue to it. So once again, the challenges is expression versus expression. So uh, it's just expression doesn't mean that it's the experience feeling. And then the second one, coherence between multiple components of emotion, because sometimes some emotion are related to each other. It's not like you know but when you feel something, it's only one emotion. It can be like a combination of them, and some labels might be like correlate to each other, like for example, um excited and happy, they are coherent to each other, like they can be at the same time, and it's really hard to differentiate between two of them, for example. And then we have emotion in generally non-emotional world, where you have sometimes uh, you don't know what you feel like. In most cases you just feel neutral, and then you want to detect it, and basically it's just nothing. So it's really hard to detect emotion in non-emotional world, when basically when people don't want to show their emotion. And then context free, where you want to try to detect emotion or affect without any context, because sometimes um, when you know about the context, let's say that you just want or like win any grand prize or any lottery, and then you feel happy about it. I mean, you will tend to feel happy about it, right? When you get surprised from your friend, you probably will happy. So by knowing this context, you can make a better like emotion detection system by knowing the context. And sometimes this system that are built in the past doesn't really know the context, whether the user has any any triggers or events that can uh, change their emotion or like affect. And then the next one, we have a socially divorced detection context. It's similar to the previous one, where um, like social aspect to the user can affect their emotion. Let's say that there are some um, people interaction that might change your emotion. Let's say that you had someone, and then you interact with this this person, then you probably will feel negative emotion after you interact with this person, and so on. And then this one is categories and dimension, basically how you model the emotion. There are many ways to do it, and there the researcher, like especially who are working on emotion, they have different way to model emotion, so it's really hard to use specific dimension or like categories. And then we still have like many other challenges from the computer science side. So the first one is the machine learning algorithms and model limitation. At the moment, there is no like, no free lunch kind of thing. Like you can just use this model and you can 100% sure that your system will be able to detect something 100%, let's say. There is no guarantee that the system that you built will be able to learn about emotion. And then the next one is ethics thing. Whether it is ethical to record your emotion, actually, whether it's ethical to for the system to know about what you feel. Is it ethical, or like in sometimes people don't want to express this feeling, and they know, and they don't want to uh, and they don't want to, or like they don't want the system to know what what they feel, I mean how they feel at the moment. And some of the other sensors that I talked before, like for example using physiological signals, detail activity, they kind of have to use specific devices to record your activity, or like facial expression, or like digital activity and other things. It raises some ethical issues, because they have to collect this data before they can process. And and other researchers try to ensure that, okay, so if the privacy is the issue, then we just don't store the data. After we pre-process it, we just discard the data. But once again, there is no guarantee that people, like big companies, they will just discard the data. They like big companies love to store like any private data, like for example how much we spend our money to buy specific things, let's say for Tokopedia. Okay, so we want to know, but this person loves to uh, buy uh, games, like for example. It can be useful for them to to just give discount for specific product that the user are interested in. So this, once again, there are some ethical issues to it. And then the last one is another book by Lisa Feldman Barrett. It's How Emotions Are Made. This is interesting because in the previous explanation that I told you before, it's kind of like we have emotion, and then we have like expression, or like psychological signal changes, like increasing heart rate and so on. But in here, in this book, um, she explained that actually our physiological signals are the one that trigger the emotion. Let's say that we increase our heart rate really high by doing nothing. Let's say, I don't know, it will actually trigger your emotion. So actually, because of our expression, or like physiological signal that we have, it will trigger the emotion on the brain. So it's kind of like the the other way around, like it's not like from our emotion to the um, physiological changes, but it's more like physiological changes to your brain, and then you have emotion. And I mean, she also got laugh when she did her presentation during the conference. So I was in a conference in the UK, and then there are many people like actually criticize her about her theory. So I actually first it like I mean, I saw it like in my own eyes, like when specific, I don't know, in specific theories, or like particular theories are presented and many people don't believe it, they actually criticize them, and they actually laugh at them, you know. And that's it. Yeah, I'm so sorry that it took longer than it should be. I don't know whether we still have time for questions.
Yeah,
Hopefully this.
okay. Thank you, Pak Johan, for your. Okay, it is actually very interesting topics about emotion, and we hope that this technology will develop soon in Indonesia. Actually, especially in in yeah, in Telkom University, we have several students with the maybe needs about this technology. I think about it is about the emotional issue actually
Yes.
it's very hard, okay, for us, for lecturer, for university, that actually it is a very sensitive very sensitive topic, and students maybe don't want to talk with the psychiater, for instance. And I think we using this technology, I think it is more personal, right, Pak Johan?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. And okay, student, do you have any questions regarding the presentations? Okay, so do you have one question for Nur Afina? In your opinion, sir, would we one day be able to put emotion to machine? I heard that some sympathies with someone is also feel the same emotion as them. If we can put emotion, would it better for those machine to understand us? Okay.
This is really good question, and it's really hard to answer. Like, I mean, you can put like expression, like for example, to the machine. Like for example, as I mean, as it is shown before. Let me check the slide. Which one is it? Thing. Um, this one. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can try to express the emotion, like say like you put a smile in the avatar, or like putting a specific body language to show the emotion, but there is no guarantee that the system will actually feel emotion that we actually have. I mean, once again, emotion itself is still like in under like really it's still like under research, like how emotion are made, what emotion really is still like under investigation. And it's really hard to say like whether robots or like system can actually have emotion that we have. So um at least if they can detect our emotion, and then they will have like some specific response to it, then we can feel like some, we can feel like better engagement to this system, when we talk with, let's say, like online chat bots, and we express some negative feelings about what we experience. And if the chatbot can explain the emotion itself, then we can be, feel more engaged talking with the system. So, but once again, it's really hard to say whether the system can actually feel that emotion. It's just basically, when we develop the system, we basically just if put an if, like a simple if statement. Okay, so if the user feel this way, then we express this emotion. So it's not basically like, it's not like the system feel that emotion, but it's more like because we tell the system that you have to express this emotion because we detect the user feel this emotion. So hopefully in the future, one day, but I don't know whether it's possible, to be honest. But let's say, I mean, the other part of the emotion is the cognitive science thing, where they actually focus how our brain works, like how our minds work. Um, if we know how the brain works, and I mean, there are many other aspects in neuroscience, like for example, um, how people can be considered alive, like consciousness, consciousness, whether we have a soul where it has consciousness, or it's just a brain the way that the brain interact with each other, like each neuron interact to each other, and then it simulate consciousness. So it's not from soul or like from anything outside or like anything that we cannot detect, but it's just like a brain reaction. And this one is still also under investigation, and many researchers are really interested to find out about this. So hopefully it answers your question.
Yeah, thank you, Pak Johan. Okay, so we have one questions. Okay, Muhammad Dafa. Okay, please, you can speak.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Assalamualaikum, sir. My name is Dafa, and I have a question. I'm quite interested in when you saw like about EMG and ECG. It's when a people looks something like that. I'm a bit interested, especially when there is ECG. Do we put our like a conductor in our body, sir? Thank you.
So it depends on devices that you're using. Like for example, for ECG, there are several devices that you can use. Like that, there is some like wearable device where you can put it on your wrist. So it's kind of like a like a Fitbit devices, but it has like bigger sensor because it has like a better PPG sensor. Like PPG sensor is the one that try to see the blood volume changes in your what do you call it? I don't know. But basically it tries to detect the flow between your what's it? I don't know the name. I mean, I forgot the name, but basically, yeah, there are several devices. So the first one, the one that you can put it on your wrist, in your wrist, as a standard like wearable device, like a smartwatches kind of thing. But this one has a really low accuracy because when you put it in your hand, you have to put it like really tight, otherwise the sensor will have really high noise. So it's not like something that you want to wear it like every day, because when you put it really tight, it will put like some mark in your wrist, and it's not like I mean it's really intrusive when you use it. And the other devices with like chest band, where you can put it on your chest, like it's kind of like this one, my bit device, and this one is intrusive as well, because it's basically you put it in your chest, and it's sometimes it's distracting when you do some activities. And other device, like for example skin conductance, there is one that you have to put it like something like this device. It's kind of a box, and then you put your tip of your finger, and then put it. There's a kind of like a slot where you put the tip of your finger, and then it tries to detect the skin conductance by checking the sweat volume from your finger. So there are many devices that you can use to detect the physiological signals, but most of them, if you want to get like better accuracy, they are really big, and it's not like something that you can use it every day. I mean, you don't want to bring this big device like with you like every day. And even the wearable device, if like a wristband device, it has like really many, I mean it has like many noises if you use it like every day, because you move your hands, right? I mean, you cannot just put your hands and then you don't want to move it at all. And it's not applicable in real life at the moment, because there are many noises when you do some activities. Hopefully it answer your question. Does it answer your questions?
Yes, sir. But you mentioned that there is like a sensor that you put in your wrist or hand, and actually I want to know that when you do like monitoring some like a blood vessel output from our hands, does it use only one point? Because I heard that traditional Chinese medicine, there is so many point in our hand. So maybe when we put this in this point, maybe we can like calculate how the blood flow in our lungs or maybe in our brain. So when I heard about that, maybe we can like analyze based on each point in TCM. Maybe we can predict an emotion based only from our hands. Is it
Yeah, I
possible?
think it's possible. Yeah, I mean, if you try to search on Google Scholar and then try to search like predicting emotion using wristband devices, you will find many studies that try to do this, and most of them they were actually in laboratory environment where the user doesn't move at all. When there is a motion artifacts to it, like for example when they use it like every day, it has like noise to the data. And let's say that you add more wristband to your hand. Let's say that you have 3 devices on your hand. Do you feel comfortable like using it like every day, and you have to wear it like you wear it like, I mean, some people don't even like to, don't even like to wear like, wristwatch, a watch, and you have to put like 3 devices, and it's not really applicable at this stage, in my opinion. But yeah, I mean, if you want to get like better accuracy, it's just for the sake of science, like the sake of research, then you can of course you can do that. And even the studies that try to use like wristband device, like Fitbit device, they can still like predict the emotion moderately well, like they have like accuracy above 70%. But once again, this is under laboratory environment where they just either stand still, either they're resting, like laying in the bed, or like they are sitting down without moving at all.
Okay, I think that's all for today. Okay, thank you for your question, Muadafa, Pak Johan. It is very great discussion. And actually, if you have any other questions or discussions, so you can contact Pak Johan. So maybe, yeah, for your further questions or discussion, yeah, there is Pak Johan email, ya, alibasa@telkomuniversity.ac.id. Okay, so I think I need to close this presentation. Okay, maybe could you stop, Pak Johan, for your presentations? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We need to take a photo, and actually I need to share a certificate to Pak Johan. Okay. So Pak Johan, again, we would like to thank you very much for your for your time to discuss with us about the technology, like the emotion. Oh, so there's Dava with so many many students in one room. Okay, again, I need to please open your cam, so I need to take a picture for us. Okay. Okay, hope that Pak Johan, you can yeah, you can join this course again maybe next time, Pak Johan. So I think this is very interesting for students. Okay, I need to take, yeah. Okay, I need to take a photo. Okay, in 3, 1, 2, 3. Wait, sorry. I need to put, okay, again, 1, 2, 3. Okay, I need to take first. Okay, wait a minute. Okay, I need to save. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Once again, just this photo. Okay. Just photo. Okay. Again, 1, 2, 3. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Okay. So again, thank you very much.
I'm very happy to be invited to this talk. I mean, I know most of the students here because they took one of my courses last year, and probably some of them still remember me.
Of course.
Hopefully, I I don't have any bad impression from
Hmm.
from the last time we met. Hopefully you all like got like the thing that you want to know about this affective computing research area. And in case you are interested to talk about this research area, of course you can send me an email, and happy to talk about this.
Okay, again, thank you very much, student Pak Johan, again for this class. And I think this is the last meeting for us. Okay, all of you, thank you very much for your time in one semester. Actually, just in maybe 1.5 semester. Okay, so thank you very much, and see you again maybe next occasion. Okay, bye bye. See you.
Thank you, sir.